and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. You know what I like to do on my show? I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Well, today we want you to, say it with me, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. We are talking about the disorder of eating. My guest today is Katya Souchitski, and we're talking about her book, No One Can Fight But Me. But let me tell you a little bit more about her. She has practiced competitive rhythmic gymnastics for 11 years. She has reached many achievements in her career, including state championship, junior Olympic team member, and even participated in the Special World Olympics opening and closing ceremonies. She's a certified group fitness and personal trainer. And of course, once again, she's the author of No One Can Fight But Me. I love that title. Thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Thank you for having me.
So I have to ask, with all that you have achieved, awesome sauce, great job, what makes you you?
Well, I'd love to give a little background of where I'm from because I feel like that's a little bit important. So I'm actually Russian, Ukrainian, I have a little Polish blood. That's always something that I like to tell people. I am originally from the Los Angeles area, very family oriented, and I had a beautiful life so far. Parents granted me amazing opportunities such as rhythmic gymnastics. Obviously, anorexia nervosa wasn't the best part of my life, but we'll get into that in a bit. Almost graduating from UC Merced right now with my bachelor's in molecular and cell biology, so that's really exciting. Obviously, UC Merced has brought me to find my passion for fitness, hence I am a current fitness trainer, and I hopefully will, in 1 year, be applying to physical therapy schools, and that will be my life goal, to open a studio where I can provide fitness training, physical therapy, and of course be doing the whole entire vlogging, blogging, social media, because that's so important these days. So
it is.
Yeah, so that's going to be, I'm starting right now, so I'm starting at a young age. I'm only 21 years old. So hopefully in a couple years I'll be able to really be able to help others in terms of fitness and advocating for eating disorders.
Absolutely. And the two things that you're talking about, I think, are so important. One being the fitness aspect and bringing the health, beauty, and fitness into it, and helping people understand, what does it really mean to be healthy? What does it mean to be beautiful? But at the same time, you're adding that social media aspect to it. I love the fact that social media is opening the world to everyone else.
Yes.
You can share your story, you can encourage other people, you can inspire them, and I love that you're doing that. Now, with your gymnastics, is that something that you always wanted to do?
It started with ballet, and I was always that very shy, timid girl. Wasn't really in class. I was always by my grandma or by my mom, and then they put me in rhythmic gymnastics, and I found my passion. And never was really amazing in gymnastics, but I loved it. I never achieved that the national team or Olympic level, but it was just something that I really loved, and it was my first love. If that's kind of how I like to describe it.
And I think that it was nice that you enjoyed it. So many times when we talk about are you successful at a particular thing, we're using someone else's definition of success. Definitely. If you enjoyed it and you were happy, then it was successful. I love it. I love it. Now, eating disorders, the disorder of eating. When did you find that it first started to introduce itself into your life?
That question can be answered in so many different ways because there were many symptoms and signs that I was facing that I didn't even know I was facing. Right. Looking back at it now, I would definitely say that it started in middle school, 8th grade, one of my friends, she started bringing smaller lunches to school just because it was competition season and she felt the need to kind of shed a few pounds. And that was her personal idea. That's what she felt she needed to do. But I started comparing, and I'm going to emphasize the word comparing myself to her, and I started doing the same thing. Okay. And so those smaller lunches led to smaller lunches to high school. And I'm going to emphasize what smaller lunches means. I only had a grapefruit for lunch.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that small lunch of only having a grapefruit led to having no lunch at all, which led to having no breakfast and no dinner Monday through Friday. So starvation, which is what the disorder of eating is.
I was going to say, this is more than intermittent fasting.
It's not fasting. It is not fasting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why when I always listen to people talking about fasting on social media, sometimes I see that as a trigger for myself because that kind of creates little flashbacks for me on when I was suffering with anorexia.
Of course. And I want to talk to you a little bit. I do want to spend some time talking about triggers. But my first question for you is, and you mentioned the word symptoms. So many times the symptoms are disguised as other things, or people may even overlook a symptom because there's a reason or a particular thing going on, and we'll just account it to that. Smaller lunch because it's training season. But what are some symptoms that we can look for if we think that someone may be dealing with an eating disorder?
I'm gonna keep them short and simple, so then you can at least I'll give you a bullet point list, and then we'll go through each one.
Great.
So if you feel like someone is experiencing body dysmorphia, so essentially I heard this from a friend of mine, she's also an author. She said there was an experiment held where a girl or a boy was asked to look in the mirror and shape the body of what they were seeing in the mirror. She or he drew him or herself, I'm not sure if it was a female or male, as they were 2 or 3 times bigger. So psychologically, you think that you are bigger. So when someone is experiencing the psychological or mental problem of thinking that they are simply overweight, but in reality they're completely normal, body dysmorphia, number 1. So that's definitely a symptom. I had it personally, of course. Second symptom, alienating and being depressed. Though technically that's 2 symptoms combined into one. Yeah. So if you feel like somebody is alienating, so not wanting to eat food, that's a really big symptom, around the company of others. So I personally always try to, and I'm going to put this in quotation marks, eat alone.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to eat around other family members or friends, because then I would be forced to actually eat.
Yeah.
But if I would go to my room and eat, that dinner would be just tossed down the toilet.
Yeah.
So alienating yourself from any kind of food-related event, if that makes sense, so dinner, lunch, or an outing with friends, that's definitely a symptom.
Because that's one of the things that I think that most people, we congregate around food.
Yes.
So for someone who used to want to go out, hey, let's go get burgers or whatever, and now all of a sudden they just want to,
I'm busy. So finding excuses not to do that with friends and family.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. I was going to mention one other symptom. This may not pertain to all individuals struggling with eating disorder, but I feel like if someone is somewhat aggressive, so I remember when somebody would offer something for me, like my mother would offer me one of my favorite dishes. Something, can't really think of something right now, but I would have this aggressive tone towards her and saying, no, I don't want this, I told you I'm not hungry. And they're trying to just help you and be sweet and offer something to you. But since this monstrous behavior is inside of you, you just break out with this aggression just to make sure you're not eating.
Right.
So aggressive behavior is definitely a symptom in some individuals.
That's an awesome point to make, because like you said, mom wants to make the mac and cheese for you because that was your favorite, and now she's like, I have no idea what's going on. But yeah, it is that anger monster that's coming out of you. I love it. You've given us something to think about. It is time for us to take a short break, but don't go anywhere. We're definitely going to continue this conversation. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. Today we are talking about the disorder of eating. Now, we mentioned it a little bit earlier, and that is the word triggers. I think that more people are becoming familiar with the term triggers, dealing with the various things that are going on in their lives. When we're talking about an eating disorder, what were some of your triggers, and what do you do once you've been triggered?
Let's start answering the first part of the question. So identifying the trigger, I'm going to mention social media advertisements. So for example, Instagram sponsored ads. You know, you're on your friend's Instagram stories, and then all of a sudden you just see that sponsored ad of a model wearing a corset, and the corset's making her waist look 2 or 3 times smaller. So many women, honestly, whether they're struggling with an eating disorder or not, they want to have that like very curvy body. But when it comes to having an eating disorder, it's not just that they want the curve. They want an excessive, like very, very excessive curve. And they don't realize that they're already skinny as is, excessively skinny, of course. So they start buying all these little, products like corsets. I myself bought those like sweat belts that I would wrap around myself just to sweat. And I wouldn't only wear it to gymnastics practice. I'd also wear it to school, thinking that, so I would be shrinking down that waist during school. And when I would wear a corset instead of the sweat belt, as you can call it, I would take it off at the end of the day, and I would like see the marks on my body just because it would tighten it up so much. So yeah, all those like advertisements, and this also pertains to like those like pills when there's like this like model holding up like, oh, I tried skinny chocolate
Take
or
this
all of
and
this
the weight
stuff.
falls off.
Yeah, but I lost 2 pant sizes, and I'm like, if I was still, God forbid, struggling with an eating disorder, I'd be like, okay, mom's credit card,
Try this, one more thing.
So just buying and spending money on all these little like things that can cause you to lose weight, that's definitely a big trigger for individuals like myself that struggled with an eating disorder, or just looking at somebody else's body and wanting to be like them on social media. Yeah.
And this is more than just your typical admiration. This is, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. Yep. Now, do you find that some triggers that trigger other disorders can also be a trigger when you're dealing with eating disorders? For example, you are stressed or you're overwhelmed, you're dealing with loneliness or being alone, for example. Are those things that where you used to be a very social person and now you're not a social person because you're eating alone? Do you find that the juxtaposition between the two, it triggers you because you don't want to be with others, because you don't want to eat in front of them, but now that you're not in front of others, that's actually triggering you. Does that work the same way when it comes to an eating disorder?
If you can maybe rephrase your question, I'm
Sure,
having a lot of
no
trouble
problem.
understanding it.
No problem. Sometimes when a baby cries, they're crying because there's too much air going in. It's like they have a little, air pocket there. They're crying because of the air bubble, but if they would stop crying, they wouldn't have that air bubble. So it's kind of a vicious cycle that goes around and around. Or if someone were to do something to you, they've betrayed you, they've harmed you in some way, and you hold on to that anger, and you're then vicious with them, but they don't know that they've caused harm to you. It kind of continues to go around and around. When you're dealing with an eating disorder, do you find that sometimes your own behaviors, because of the eating disorder, it triggers you in a subconscious way because you wish that you were able to do that particular something?
Yes. Yeah, and honestly, that's a big topic that I focus on as I, begin spreading the awareness of eating disorders, because I was thinking about this the other day, and I've actually always thought about this and told this to my new friends. I've always been very, I've been a loner. I'm kind of like my whole entire life. As a child, my younger sister, she's 3 years younger than me, my best friend.
Right.
She'd always kind of have to stand 2 steps in front of me and just say, her name's Katya.
Right.
So like, I was always just like the quiet little girl. And I had the big afro when I was little. So people would think I'm like Shirley Temple when I was little.
That
So
is
that
so
would just
cute.
make me like so intimidated by others. And that brought into high school where I'd start like alienating myself from others. So I've always been this like very quiet, in my own little bubble, if that makes sense. So once anorexia hit me, that alienation and that like depression, I was never depressed, but like I would just say that alienation, it took a deeper, like it went deep to the point where I was originally sad because I didn't have that many friends. But now with this disorder on myself, I felt this crazy sense of depression because I was like, I really don't have friends. And so I guess that's like why I was digging myself in a deeper hole where I thought maybe it's my appearance that I wasn't looking, skinny enough for others. So now that I begin to understand your question, I would feel really alienated, and because I wasn't having the opportunity to eat with others, even though I was, that was in a way an excuse to continue not eating. So yeah, it really is like a loop, and it honestly started from when I was a child, and it developed.
Now, for so many things that we deal with, we use the word being cured. Is there a cure for eating disorders?
I'm gonna just say no. I'm just gonna say no. And I might be wrong, the answer might be yes, but from personal experience,
From your experience.
no. Because although, knock on wood, wherever there's some wood right now, although I look healthy, I have an athletic build, I'm a fitness trainer, I'm able to inspire lives right now, I do not believe I'm cured, and I don't believe I'll ever be cured because I, once a month or once a week or once a day, once a year even, I will have this little flashback, and maybe like it'll be before bed where I'm changing. I'll look at myself in the mirror and I'll be like, something's not right. Like, time to lose like maybe 3-5 pounds, and then I wake up the next morning and I'm like, you're crazy.
You're fine, right?
You're fine. Like, go live your life, be happy. So like, and then others, they might never, see like these symptoms again. And so in a way, like, yes, I am cured, but the fact that like I get these continuous symptoms and triggers and all of that stuff, that's what creates slight, symptoms of anorexia. So maybe yes and no.
I love it.
Yes and no.
But I hear what you're saying, that you're very aware and you're active in your choice to be your best self, and you know that you need to do what you need to do in order to be your best. I love it. I love it. And thank you for being honest about that.
Of course.
Because someone needs to hear that every day could be a day that you need to, again, make that choice, that decision to say, today, I'm okay. I love it. I love it. Well, it's time for us to make the choice of, gotta go to break. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, my name is Katya Souchitski. I am the author of No One Can Fight But Me. It's my personal story of how I fought anorexia nervosa a few years back. I am happy to say that I have recovered. I'm currently a fitness trainer, finishing my last semester at University of California in Merced, studying molecular and cell biology. With this book, I hope that I can change many people's lives and help them recover from eating disorders such as anorexia nervosa, bulimia, binge eating. So please make sure you read that specifically last chapter in the book, because that will give you some great tips on how you yourself can recover. Feel free to check out my social media at KAS_, Active on Instagram, and then my website is kasactive.com or casactive.com. There you can find my bio, a little bit about me. You can scope some of my YouTube videos as well as some of my pictures of me as a fitness trainer. Of course, you'll get a little bit of a story about what the book is about, and all the links are there where you can buy the book. So Barnes & Noble, Amazon, obviously my publishing company website. So all the links are on my website. Once again, that's kasactive.com. Once again, my name is Katya Souchitski, and I'm the author of No One Can Fight But Me. Thank you.
And we are back. Thank you so much for spending time with me here on Daily Spark TV. Today we are talking about the disorder of eating. So Katya, I want to ask you about two sides of the same coin. Be it you are the person dealing with the eating disorder, or you're a support member, be it that it's mom, dad, brother, sister, best girlfriend, whatever. If someone is actively dealing with an eating disorder, what can they do to get the help that they need, or be the help that that person needs?
Well, first of all, I want to say this very clearly: never offer help to a person with an eating disorder, because they're not going to take it, because they are not themselves. They have this other, individual living inside of them. There's this monster living inside of them, as I like to say a lot. And until that monster does not crawl out, no one's going to help them. No therapist, no nutritionist, no family, no brother, no husband, no wife. No one's going to help that person. They have to be able to ask you. And that's what I did personally. I hit a very severe point of depression where I felt like there was like that little angel on the other side of myself that my dad always talked about. He always says, like, you have this monster and you have this angel. So like, fight for the angel side.
Yeah.
So as I was saying, I guess that angel was just kind of like peeping out of its hole and say, help. So I went to mom and I told her the truth about, I've been tossing lunches, blah, blah, blah. All the stuff that, everyone's been telling you, like coach, grandma, or like friends, like, she's too skinny. They're right. So I told her everything. I confessed, cried for hours and hours and hours and hours. But I was the one that told her. She didn't come up to me. Gotcha. And from there, obviously we needed a professional diagnosis. So we went to a UCLA specialist. I was officially diagnosed. They said they caught it in time. I was almost hospitalized. And from there, they referred us to an eating disorder specialist. That did not help me at all. Because during those years of, starving myself, I forgot how to eat. So during that recovery process, I knew I needed to gain weight, but I didn't know how to eat. Like, it was hard to chew pasta. Like, it felt like my jaw, like I don't know, it was a weird thing. I can't even describe it. So it was really hard recovering. So during my weigh-ins every week, I would just chug water nonstop, just so it would be saying, like, I'm gaining weight,
Something would be there.
Yeah. So, but then I told my parents, I'm like, this is just a lie. It's not working. Therapy isn't working. So they're just like, okay, well, we're going to trust you that you can do this on your own. So from there on, I started to fight, on my own. And my weight fluctuated. I went from, 98 to 89 pounds. So I lost more weight during that. And then at that point, my parents were just like, all right, lady, do you want to go to college or not?
Or not, right.
So I said, yeah, I want to go to college. I want to become, I want to pursue my goals. So I wouldn't say it's a threat. It was more of an ultimatum, like I said. So maybe giving a person an ultimatum, and because I feel like ultimatum and threat, they kind of coincide by each other. Like they're kind of similar words. So telling your daughter or your son and just maybe telling them that they have something to live for will be like motivation. But don't tell them, don't like yell at them and tell them that they have a problem, because that will just make things worse for that person. So, but number one advice, to help somebody, ask if they want help. Don't tell them they have an eating disorder, and ask what kind of help that they would like if they ask for help from me, if that makes sense. I know that's a really confusing statement.
No, really,
but
it makes sense because I hear you saying, don't project,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
So leave the door open and just say, hey,
I'm here.
If you need me, I'm here. And if they come to you, listen more than you talk. And then once they tell you, ask them again, what can I do to assist you? And allow them to inform you as opposed to you informing them.
Yes. But I just want to point out, last little thing. If you do believe that their condition is very severe, such as maybe deathly, then maybe consider taking action as a parent or a father, you know, in terms of
That's the
hospitalization.
intervention time.
That's
but
like intervention time. But since I was given that ultimatum where it's like, do you want hospital or college? I was smart enough to choose college.
Reminding them that there's something that you're going to be there for them. I love that. I love that. Now, I know we don't have enough time in the show for me to ask you all the questions, but I want to ask you, try to get maybe 2 more questions in. The first one is, why the book now? Why was it appropriate for you to share now?
Well, as you know, as I mentioned, I was always very timid and shy in my own little bubble. I wrote the book 4 or 5 years ago, once I was starting to recover. And I'm in my senior year of college now, and it only began to start the publishing process when I was finishing high school. So it's been a while.
Gotcha.
And finally, I received news from my publishing company, like, your book's published last summer. Yay. And then from there, I just realized, you know, with this in my hands, I want to help people.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if I'll be able to, like, help one person or 2 or hundreds. You know, I don't know how big this book will get, but I don't know if I'm just gonna say this, I don't care how many copies I sell, I don't care what the profit is, I don't want people to suffer.
Yeah.
I don't want people to die because I myself had a very traumatic experience. You know, I had a sign from God. You know, it was in my room, I passed out, saw the light. Saw a dead version of myself on the other side. Yeah. And I think that was God's way of saying, hey, time to flash back into reality. And I was lucky to wake up. And I walked out of the door and I'm like, let's live life. And I want to be able, you know, for others to experience that. That they have this life to live. And there's only one life that they can live. So hopefully reading the book will change, you know, their perspective on why they even started having an eating disorder. And the last chapter of the book pertains to any kind of eating disorder. Bulimia, anorexia, binge eating. So that just gives a little bit of, like, little hints and stuff like that can help others. But overall, I hope this book can help many people change their lives, and I hope I can continue to spread awareness of eating disorders, because I would hate for someone to struggle through something as harsh as I did.
I think that you're being on and sharing not only your faith moment, but the raw reality of what it's like dealing with an eating disorder and not allowing anyone else to shame you into covering it up, but instead saying, I'm taking my power back and I'm going to share.
And I was going to, sorry if I interrupted you.
Absolutely.
No one can fight it but me. No one can fight it but you.
That's right. That's
Anyone can, you have to want to fight it. It's, do you want to die or do you want to live? I know that's a little bit, you know.
But that's kind of simple.
It's true. It's
black
simple.
and white there.
So no one can fight it but you.
I love it. And what a great way to end today. Thank you so much, Katya, for coming on today and sharing with us. And thank you for tuning in as well. I hope that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered you. Remember that you are blessed in the Lord. See you next time.